Today's episode is going to blow your mind. I'm Unika Walcott, the host of Career Conversations. And as you can see, just a little bit of hint here of who's coming is Tasha Barron Smith. She is an accountant, an author, a bookkeeper, a military spouse, and all around just dope human being. And I'm so grateful that we crossed paths. And so I want to introduce you all to her so that you can understand why I'm such a fan, why I'm excited to interview her, and really just kind of discover maybe a little part of yourself in the conversation. So I want to welcome you to the stage, Tasha.
Well, thank you. That was beautiful. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for saying yes to my invitation. Like that is not a given that people say, yeah, I will make time for you. So thank you. I want to kind of dive right in. When you tell your family that you're an author, an accountant, a consultant, just all of these wonderful things you've managed to accomplish, including hitting, more than six figures in your business in it, like in under a year. What do they think?
So to be completely honest, so my children, I have 4 children. My oldest is 19. So Tanisha is 19, Brianna is 13, LJ is 8, Toshmore is 5. And no matter what I accomplish, the kids just want their mommy. So in their eyes, I'm mommy, and I'm very proud of that. And the same thing with my husband. My husband, in my husband's eye, now he know who he married, honey. He knows who he married.
Yeah.
But my primary role with him is his wife. I still cook for him and I still rub his feet and massage him after a long day's work. So it's great that I've accomplished what I've accomplished because it helps me feel fulfilled as an individual, as a whole, so that I'm not just my roles. So everything that I've accomplished and all the roles I get to play makes me the best version of me, so I can be the best version, the best wife for my husband and the best mom. So my girls are older. So the girls are older, the boys are younger. So the girls are definitely like really proud of me. Like my 19-year-old, she has an entrepreneurial spirit too. So she's going around talking about my mom is a six-figure, business owner. So it definitely triggered something in her for her to pursue her dreams and her goals. And I am just happy with where our relationship has evolved to, even because of my expansion journey. And then my 13-year-old Brianna, she's really proud. She's like, Mom, you always like reading books and you're always telling me to read books. And now you wrote a book. Like, that's pretty cool. So now my 13-year-old is definitely psyched that I'm an author and that she can see my name on the book. So that's kind of how the family views it. The boys just want their mommy and cuddles. And, that's just who I am with them.
Yeah, they're still young, but it's so wonderful to see how your journey has influenced your family and how you have pointed out, like, look, I'm still a mom, I'm still a wife. Like all these are just parts of who I am. I think sometimes, and one of your posts was, quite vulnerable on Facebook you shared recently, just kind of the challenges of like becoming an entrepreneur and still kind of keeping all the family unit and things in, in good healthy space. That's hard. What are some things that you've learned on your journey that have helped you to find balance in those two places?
Yeah, that's a good question because, on top of, I in my mind, 4 kids is a lot. On top of that, we are a military family. So my husband has actually been in the military for 20 years. We celebrated 20 years as in the Navy in January. And
thank you, Tasha. Thank you to your husband as well. But I think people forget like how hard it is to be a military spouse. My gosh.
Yes, our youngest son was 8 weeks. So I had a baby. Toshmore was 8 weeks, and then my husband left for a 9-month deployment. And then during that 9-month deployment, the pandemic hit. And so I went through an entire pandemic with postpartum issues. All my hair was falling out and all of that by myself with 4 kids.
Like, you see my face, like I struggled and I don't have children. Like I can't even imagine.
It was, yeah. It was a traumatic experience, right? And so, yeah, I was breastfeeding. My breast milk stopped flowing. Then the stores were all out of formula, and we couldn't find formula. And how was I going to feed this baby? It was a lot. It was a lot. And so that's pretty much the extra dynamic with being a military family. So that was just a pandemic. Before that, you know, we've been married for 13 years. He was constantly in and out, in and out. And there was always almost a power struggle very early on in our marriage. Because when he's gone, I have to do everything.
Yeah, you
And
got to boss up in a different kind of way
I
when
gotta
it's just.
boss up in a different kind of way. I got to get my car cleaned, and I have to do the oil changes, and I got to put my own trash out, and I have to make sure the kids do their homework and all of that. And then he comes home, and then now it's like daddy's home. And I'm like, well, I've been doing this all along. And even in those times, I had to learn to let a man be a man, and
Oh yeah.
daddy's home so I can relax and step back, and the kids go to your father and ask your father. So even that we had to pretty much learn and navigate. So we've been married for 12 years, since 2013, and we are much better communicators now. And thankfully, we've been patient with each other to pretty much navigate those power struggles. But that
Those
was
can
a
be
big
real,
thing.
especially when you like own a business and you're like, I gotta like be very assertive and be very firm in my boundaries with my clients so that I can be effective and successful. But you can't treat your husband like you treat your clients or your boss. Like I say that to some of my girlfriends sometimes. And I know we had a few friends visit recently, and we were like, "Oh, look, they had the best argument." Like, because you gotta learn how to argue. Like, it's not a don't argue. It's like, how do we keep this respectful and communicate? So that's wonderful. Like that you guys have found that balance. It is hard.
Yeah, we work through it. We are definitely committed to each other. We're committed to our family. We're committed to our marriage. So we're like, we're gonna work it out. That's pretty much the attitude that we've had throughout our entire marriage. And a little history: I knew my husband from back in the day. So when I was in ninth grade, he was in 10th grade. He was the
Ooh.
guy I shared my first kiss with. Yeah, he walked me to school one day. He walked me to class one day, held my books, all of that, and then kissed me. And then I like walked it. But that was my first kiss, and he didn't even know. But that was my first time. And so it's so interesting to kind of see how we circled back after like 10 years after high school, reconnected, and then now we have this amazing life that we've built. So that's the backstory. So we were really good friends from high school. Um,
Ooh.
yeah.
Sounds like a similar love story. Like my husband and I met in high school as well, and took a long sort of circuitous route of like, let me go do life, and then 10 years later, like, hey, how are you? So that's super awesome.
Yes.
Don't be chiming in from upstairs. Oh my god. He said you were my first French kiss. He's
Oh, that's cute.
telling all that, y'all. Oh, so I'm gonna make you come downstairs and keep it up. So you found this wonderful balance in family harmony. When it comes to keeping clients, I know you're very selective about who you work with. What kind of qualities are you looking for in your clients?
Yes. And you know what? Let me just say, if any of my clients are seeing this, shout out to my clients. Let me tell y'all. And I have the most amazing clients. And so thankfully, I really haven't had like a bad bunch. But again, my boundaries are so clear, and I'm really good at communicating. And so if I do have to take any type of action, to me, it's seamless because I've communicated it. So it's not emotional, it's strictly business, and this is what it is. Peace, love, light. If I release you, we release peacefully,
Yeah.
and that's just how I am. So my clients are those who pretty much are professionals. Typically, professional people are professional. They respect themselves, they respect their business. So professionalism is a number one, most important. And then just being respectful, having manners, basic things in my culture, because I'm from the Caribbean, and in the islands, listen, like manners is a big thing, so
Yes. So though that makes sense. She said, look, be professional, be well mannered, sounds pretty straightforward, but I will say I have found that's not always the case with everybody you work with. And so I will say this to you: working with you has forced me to raise the bar on who I bring into my sphere of who I collaborate with, because I was like, oh, I was like, there is Holiday Inn service and there's Ritz Carlton service, and I'm not accepting Holiday Inn nonsense. Like,
I know that's right.
so I appreciate you so much. So full disclosure, guys, I work with Tasha. She's my bookkeeper for Unica Walcott Communications. One of the first sort of official collaborations I brought on as far as growing my business, because I personally think that it's great to have all these really gorgeous things put out in front of folks, but if like you don't know how to measure and track your money and what's happening, how can you make any really good decisions? So that's why I brought Tasha on. And the thing that really grabbed me about you, we were in a program together, was her energy. I mean, she would come on and we would like have our daily check-ins, and she would say, how are you doing? She said, I'm always winning. Today is a winning day.
Yes.
And I just found that so contagious. I was like, I need more of that in my life. So it wasn't just the service. It was like, this kind of energy is what you need to surround yourself with. So thank you for just being you and showing up, Tasha. I wanted to share that with you. One of the many ways you make an impact beyond bookkeeping, you also offer some life coaching. I understood from your book and the prayer principles. You sounded as life, I think life strategist, was it?
Yes, me and labels, honey. The world like to labels things, but I'm very particular with labels. So, I'm very strategic. So I am a life strategist. And so throughout my journey, I have been fortunate enough to have consulting clients. So particularly bookkeepers were pretty much drawn to me, and service-based entrepreneurs were drawn to me as well. But I officially had two other bookkeepers who were in this field long before I was. They were drawn to me like, Tasha, coach me, show me how to build a profitable business. And so it's been a beautiful journey to be able to support them, but then in a way where we look at them, we look at their whole life, we look at their business, yes, but we look at who they are as an individual. So business coaching, business consulting, yes. And I call myself a life strategist because I can help you strategize the same way how I have strategized my business and my life. I'm very strategic, so I can help with that.
Awesome. I love it. And I've heard you use the term a lot. You say expansion season. Can you talk to us a little about what expansion means?
Yes. And I get excited. Just, see, I don't know. I'm expansion. So in 2023, I declared my expansion season. And expansion is a word that's dear to me so far that I actually have a program this year called Expansive. And I have a framework that I've been working on called Expand. Okay, that's the Expand is a framework for my expansive program. It's a 12-month program. And you can see more about that on my website, tashabaronsmith.com. Expansion is because in order for us to have more, we have to become more. We within ourselves have to expand. A lot of times we look at our bank accounts, we look at all of these external things, and we think the answer is a strategy, which strategy is important now, right? We think the answer is a bomb website or some bomb of a good photo shoot, but the answer really is already within you. The answer is for you to become more, for you to expand, because the only way to change your now and to change your situation for the better is for you yourself to expand. When a baby is in the womb, they outgrow the womb. They expand. It's expansion. Life is about expansion. For you to outgrow, for you to go to the next level, you got to expand. You have to become bigger than where you are.
I love this analogy about like expansion and like babies, though, because the thing is, like, when your baby gets so big, it gets uncomfortable. They gotta come out. And I think that that's something that maybe might resonate with some of the people that are watching, that are like, I'm in a place where I'm deeply uncomfortable. The space I'm in is too tight. I'm crammed. Like, how do I get to that next level? And so it sounds like that's where you're coaching people through it. It's a 12-month program, which I really like, because it, to me, dials into the idea that this is a process. It's not a microwavable sort of experience, which is
Exactly.
wonderful. I think a lot of times people go, oh, we can make this transformation and we can do it in like 2 weeks or 2 days. And it's like, it's a transformation. Like, it's a part of a life cycle. Like, how do you do something in days that should probably take years? And really, it's, laying the foundation for you to develop the habits to continue that process. You said you started your process in 2023 and it continues.
It continues. And it's important for us to know that it continues, because that way we put ourselves in a spot where, like, you've never arrived. You don't want to get to a point where you've reached a goal and then you're stuck. And then it's like, well, you're stuck. You don't want to have to feel stagnation. And so that's why it's a journey. It's a journey, and the journey continues.
So tell me, what is one of the biggest lessons you've learned along your journey in expansion that you like to share with others?
Oh my goodness. Oh, I've learned so many lessons. One of the biggest, if we kind of tie back into kind of like the role I played in my family. So I was a stay-at-home mom for 10 years, stay-at-home mom, Navy spouse, housewife for like 10 years. And yes, I had my business, but it was just there. It was kind of like very, nothing serious where I was building something or generating revenue. So, but what happened during that time where I was stay-at-home mom, homeschooling kids, housewife, what happened was I was unfulfilled. I felt like I wasn't the best version of myself. And I felt like something else is missing, because what happened before I got married, I was in corporate. I did sales and marketing. I was in leadership. I was doing trainings. So I've been her, right? And
Yeah.
then how I got married, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm just gonna, and I realized I came to a place where it was great that my husband was able to support us while I was having kids and growing our family. But there was a point where I'm like, something is missing. I need to feel more fulfilled with like what I'm doing. And I wanted to make sure that I wasn't just sleeping on my potential, on my skills,
Yeah.
So one of the things I learned is that, hey, I don't have to choose between the two, because at one point I felt like I chose between career and family, and I had chosen my family, but I realized I don't have to choose between the two. I can have both. So that was a key thing that spiked my expansion season. The other thing was I needed to make sure, as a woman, as an individual, I needed to make sure that I could build something and sustain it. Yes, it's great that my husband provides, but I didn't want to use my husband as a crutch. So I needed to, use my intellect, use my gifts to be me. So that was another thing I learned. Then the third thing was like to trust myself, right? To
Yeah.
take risk I needed to take, to say, this is who I serve, this is who I don't serve, to trust myself, to say, this is the price and this is what it is. I won't accept anything lower than that. So trusting myself was another big one that I learned. Yeah.
No, I love it. She said, I don't have to choose between being a wife and a mother and being a successful business owner. Like, expansion has allowed you to do both.
Yes.
That's
Absolutely.
Would you be willing to share an excerpt? Gosh, so we've talked a lot about her consultant work. We talked about her as a bookkeeper. She's also an author. I've got her book here, The Prayer Principles for Entrepreneurs. She's featured in chapter 6, guys. And so, Tasha, if you would share with us just a little bit from the chapter, I think that will really help people get an understanding of who you are and what you do. I think there's something powerful when people take the time to write and share their thoughts with people.
Absolutely. So 15 entrepreneurs got together last year and we wrote a book to entrepreneurs from entrepreneurs. It is the Prayer Principles for Entrepreneurs, and it is sold on Amazon. We are a bestseller. So check it out. And my chapter is on expansion. It's chapter 6, I believe. Yep, chapter 6. And so I'm going to read page 33, and there's a couple paragraphs here on courage. All right. Now, it takes courage to do things differently. Everyone will be taken aback by your new habits and walking in your power. And you may be concerned about being judged. You may be concerned about appearing to be proud. We all know the scripture so well that says, pride comes before a fall. But remember, humility is between you and God. And in order for you to fulfill your purpose, you have to walk in courage and confidence. Humility does not mean shrinking, playing small, or dumbing down your intellect. Be courageous and fulfill the desires God placed in your heart. A big part of courage is also being obedient to do the little things God told you to do. We have no idea how those little things connect to the big picture or our goals, but God does. In most cases, in hindsight, we see how everything aligned. So do the little thing God tells you to do without being concerned with being judged by others or appearing silly.
I love it. Do the little things. I think sometimes we're always looking for God in these big, magical, over the top, you get a car, you get a house sort of ways. And sometimes it's the little things. Like when I slow down, relax, and just go have fun, usually the thing I'm looking for finally shows up. Like literally, like this weekend, I went out, went to visit a museum, stopped in a bar. I'm chit chat. Next thing you know, I'm sitting in a room full of lawyers. I've been looking for a lawyer. So I love that you said do the little things. It always doesn't have to be this big thing. What are some of the little things you have found that doing have been a part of the bigger picture for you on this journey?
Here's one that comes to mind most recently that I'd like to share. Last year, so a few months ago, sometime I think like in October and November, I'm always working on stuff. So I have a lot of workbooks and courses that I've created that I haven't even launched yet. They're just sitting. And so last October, I was working on a workbook, but I wasn't sure who I was going to promote it to. And so someone from social media reached out to me. Hey, Tasha, you came to mind. Would you like to do, like a financial literacy course with my audience? And I said, sure, I'll do it. So we had a contract that was going to be compensated for this, everything, and which was pretty exciting. Fast forward 3 days before the event, the young lady reached out to me. She said, well, we anticipated having at least 10 people sign up or purchase, and we only had about 3 or 4. So we're actually going to refund everyone and then reschedule the course and cancel the course. And so at first I said to her, well, I would show up for one. I would have shown up for the one. I didn't realize like there was like a 10 limit that you were looking for, but I would have showed up for the one. And so there was some disappointment there. And I said, God, I would have shown up for the one. If it's one person that I'm called to help in that moment that needed the information, it would have been my pleasure to still show up for that one. I would have shown up for the one. So that happened. And I decided, okay, I'm just going to hold back on everything for now. I'm not going to still promote that course or workbook myself because I didn't have any peace from God to do that. So I just kind of waited, right? A few days after that, someone reached out to me from another company that I partnered with and said, we would like you to be a speaker on our panelists at the National Black Caucus of State Legislators in Washington, D.C.
Wow.
So I went from within 7 days, I went from Tasha, not enough people signed up to hear you speak virtually, so we're canceling this, to speaking in a room with state legislators, a full room of state legislators, talking pretty much about my expansion journey.
Wow. Because you were prepared though, like that, the way God took that little thing and expanded it. That's wow.
Because I was willing to do the little thing. I was going to show up for that one. I was willing.
Yeah. That's such a powerful reminder. Sometimes you get discouraged and go, okay, well, I did this thing, and then one person showed up. It's like, well, you don't know what impact you had with that one person. You might not always get the whole story and the whole view. But it's still important. And I think that's part of my catalyst for getting back to career conversations. I've had people come to me. I hadn't done the show in over a year. When is career conversations coming back? I'm like, I haven't even mentioned this show. When is career conversation? I was like, I didn't know people were watching it. I looked at the analytics. I was like, the math ain't math. And what do you guys mean? So, but I'm also back because it's something that I enjoy doing. And I've got a lot of things in my life that I'm like, I do because I have to, not because I enjoy them. So I'm really grateful you said yes, so that we could get back into a groove of like doing what's fun. And obviously, you know, I think what's meaningful and impactful, you are teaching people how to expand, you know, as wives, as entrepreneurs, as mothers, helping make sure people keep their money right. Because
Yes.
a lot of times ladies, we don't like to talk about money. I feel like some of us have been coached and almost sort of taught that, you know, money is bad, or we shouldn't talk about money. It's improper. It's rude. I tend to talk about money probably more than it makes my friends comfortable. And I will sometimes ask, like, is this an uncomfortable conversation? Like, why? Because I want us to get comfortable talking about money, because I think it breaks down barriers from the perspective of what's possible. So when you talk about, okay, look, I expanded into a 6-figure business in under a year. Like, had you not shared that, well, people thought that was possible for themselves. Like, you know, you have the statistic floating around that, you know, typically, you know, our businesses only make $24K a year. I was like, is that actually true though? Because I know a lot of very successful women who are doing very well. You know, that we have to be careful about the statistics that we accept as facts. We don't know who's behind them or their intention. So I love that you share that with us. When it comes to deciding on a bookkeeper, what are some of the things you feel like people should really be looking for?
Yeah, and I like to say that not all bookkeepers are the same. I like to say that. But typically, if you plan to partner with a bookkeeper, you want to partner with someone who is passionate about what they do, someone who's going to be responsive. Because a lot of my clients, when they came to me, they would say, well, they don't hear from their bookkeeper. You know, and pricing, I think, has a lot to do with availability as well. But you definitely want to partner with someone who's passionate and who's responsive in terms of communication. You definitely want to keep your eye on your numbers monthly. You want to keep your eyes on your numbers monthly. You want your bookkeeper to definitely, you know, be knowledgeable, be proficient for sure. But I think the most important is the responsiveness and the communication.
And I will say that has definitely been my experience with you. Like, if I've got a question, it's you know, send a quick email, quick message. You're getting back to me usually before I can blink with an answer or an update, or going, hey, I need to get back to you in, you know, 24 to 48. Just, you know, if there's any sort of delay, but like that's been the standard you have set, and it's been consistent, which I've really, really appreciated. It's put me at ease in so many ways. Or you're going, hey, well, here's how the BOI legislation has changed again in the past 48 hours. Here's how we need to move so that we're in the right, you know, position. So those are things I really appreciate, is having an extra set of eyes and ears, so I don't have to like be glued to the screen going, okay, well, that's what it said 4 hours ago, but now it says this. Like, so you're like on top of those kinds of things, and that makes it easier for me to focus on growing my business.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. Thank you.
When you think about what you want your businesses to look like in 5 years, what do you imagine?
That's a really good question. Because I remember when I first started, when I declared my expansion season, I was definitely thinking lifestyle career, right? Because I want to I deliberately set up my business exactly how I set it up. which means I have clients in various states and I can work virtually. I set up my business so that I can work off of the beach if I want to, right? I'm an island girl. All I need, honey, is my laptop and an internet connection, and I can make my money.
Yeah.
So I'm still very much so lifestyle and, mentality.
Yeah.
But because of the transitions we're about to face right now, even in our family dynamic with retiring from the military and possibly relocating, I actually have like this beautiful full service accounting firm, in mind for the next 5 years. So at first, I'm just like, it's just going to be me. It's fine. Now I'm definitely excited to even build out. So I see a bigger firm. I see more employees. I see a rebrand coming soon. And I'm excited. So I definitely see a bigger firm, which once I set everything up, will still allow me to perform my consulting services on a higher level. So I see continued expansion. I see continued growth in the next 5 years, and I'm excited because the journey continues. I haven't arrived. There's still more in store.
I love it. I love it. So I'm going to get to meet your whole team of accountants someday. I'm excited about that.
Yes, you have a specific, if not me, honey, you'll have an account manager.
Look, I am. Look, if you hired them and they're in your leadership, I'm not worried. Yes. Not worried. So yeah, no, this is exciting news. I'm looking forward to it. When the time comes, do you see yourself retiring or selling your firm?
Wow.
And that's a very distant question, but since we're talking about the future, I was like, let me throw it out there. She might look at me and go, girl, I don't know.
No, you know what? To be honest, it would be nice to create something that would become part of the family legacy. Mm-hmm. It would be nice to build a business where one or more of my 4 children can take it up and it be a legacy.
Yeah.
That would be beautiful. If that's in God's will, that would be nice. I would love to see that.
That would be so next level. I love it. I got a chance to moderated a conference last year, and one of the speakers, Monique Williams, talked about building a profitable, scalable, sellable business. And a part of her talk, she said, look, if you get to a position, you can buy a business and basically buy your kids a job. And I was like, I never thought about it that way. And so when you talk about just like legacy and building a business, it puts me in that mindset of like, we aren't just creating things for ourselves, we're creating things for our children and our grandchildren. And I love that you've got a legacy mindset.
Yeah.
Talked about what it is to balance motherhood, wifehood. I know that's not a real word. And being an entrepreneur. What does your self-care routine look like?
Listen, self-care is very important to me. A lot of people don't know this, but every Wednesday, like my calendar is typically cleared on Wednesdays. Wednesdays are my me days. So once I take the kids to school, I pretty much might take myself to lunch. Wednesdays are my me days, or I go home and it's no one's home and it's just quiet. It's me there because I love peace and quiet too. I like solitude. I like solitude because it rejuvenates me. I can think clearly. I come up with more ideas, less distractions. So, and that's every week. So every Wednesday is my me day, and I do something for myself. So self-care is definitely very important to me.
Yeah, I love that you've look, it's scheduled. It's not a negotiable. It's not I'll get around to this when I've done 28 other things on my to-do list. It is Wednesday is my day. And if I want to go take myself for a glass of wine and steak in the middle of the day, that's my business.
Period. And no one typically knows. So, and then that's why, I respond within 24 to 48 hours. So if you email me on a Wednesday, I might respond the next day and still be within my time frame. But yeah, and I've, and I've built my business that way. So I love that for me. I love, because a traditional, and so I built my business so that I don't have to have a traditional 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, because sometimes I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm working, you know, um, whenever I get that urge, or sometimes I work from, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. because that's kind of like my time where I'm at my peak.
Yeah.
6 p.m. to 8. I don't know. I get like a surge of energy. So I've been able to I've built my life, I've designed my life. And that's another thing. Like a lot of times we live by default, but expansion means designing the life that you want. Design it exactly how you want it.
Design your life. That sounds like a book one of my mentors recommended to me that I probably should revisit. But I love the idea of, you said, look, I work when I'm at my peak, when I've got the energy, the focus to bring, and that makes a big difference in the client experience. You guys, if you want to work with Tasha for the bookkeeping, it's l3virtual.com. If you're looking for consulting support, tashabaronsmith.com. Leave this up here for a second.
I like how you did that. Nice.
Thank you. If you want to get a hold of this book, Prayer Principles for Entrepreneurs, guys, Amazon has it. I'm sure if you hit the contact us page on Tasha's site or whatever, you can find it, but I highly recommend it. It is really timely for me. I love that you shared the excerpt on courage, because when I checked in with myself this morning, I said, how are you doing? And at first I said, okay, you're discouraged. I said, you're not gonna even speak that over yourself. I said, you have to say, look, I'm operating in courage. I'm finding the courage to keep going. But you won't accept being discouraged. So I really appreciate you reading that chapter and reminding people like that in this season, like, courage is necessary. It's not a negotiable.
You're right. It's necessary. Absolutely.
Is there anything that I have not asked that you'd like to share with the audience?
I don't know. I thank you so much for this session. It was a pleasure. This has to be my best. I mean, a lot of people, well, a few people have like interviewed me, but I feel like this was my favorite, just to be honest.
Oh,
I feel like you pulled out some substantive information from me, so that was amazing. So I just want to thank you again. And yeah, I'm down for these conversations, honey. So keep it up.
I will.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning into Career Conversations. We had Tasha Barron-Smith. She is an accountant, an entrepreneur, and an author. And these are the ways you can work with her. TashaBaronsmith.com for consulting. L3virtual.com for her bookkeeping and accounting services. And I'm going to tell you guys, don't hesitate. Don't drag your feet. She not taking everybody, and her client list grows. So if you want the opportunity to work with her and you value excellent customer service, like, that's not just a phrase that's on her website. That is something that I'm experiencing in real time. Get to know her. Thank you guys.